All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another market close. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Today is going to be an exciting one, primarily because after the bell, we've got Microstrategy earnings. This is one of the biggest Bitcoin companies, self-proclaimed Bitcoin development companies on the planet. Bitcoin has been down today. MicroStrategy is down like 1%. So that's not going to be any big news. But if there's any numbers that come out that are a little wonky, that could potentially affect MicroStrategy stock. That's going to have an impact on Bitcoin. So we'll be talking about MicroStrategy at the bell. SoFi and Tesla were today. Unfortunately, SoFi just did not have the best day. We're going to listen to Noto right now and see what he has to say. SoFi right here, $7.05. It has not changed since earnings or since earnings came out. I mean, you thought it would get a little bit of a bounce. That did not happen. Tesla, on the other hand, did phenomenally well. We got Tesla right here up almost 15% on the day. Tesla right now is at 193. Sorry, 15.18% on the day. Probably doesn't close at $200. Another $7 would be a little tough, but I don't think anyone is complaining at 15%. And we're going to talk about the reasons for why Tesla is up 15%. Let's start off with SoFi. A couple things I want to say on SoFi. We're going to hear from Anthony Noto as well. He was on CNBC. He had to say some things. I'll give my raw thoughts on SoFi. Well, they're not raw anymore because I've had a couple hours to internalize them. And then we'll move on to everything else. First of all, thank you everybody for being here. Appreciate you all for being here on the market close. Tough day for SoFi shareholders, but also a great day for Tesla. And that's just how it goes sometimes. That's just how it goes with different stocks in different categories on a day where sometimes you get a good earnings, sometimes you get a bad earnings, but also sometimes you get a piece of news like Tesla going to China and it explodes everything. So first, let's talk about SoFi. First of all, as bearish as I've been today, if you've been following my comments on Twitter, I put in an order that hasn't gotten filled yet to buy 5 contracts. Why did I do this to buy 5 more contracts? Because it's down 10% is stupid. We know down 10% is being stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Idiotic. Did not deserve to be down 10%. If anything, it deserves to be up 10%, even though some of the guidance was not as good as we wanted it to be. But being down 10% is just stupid. So when something gets stupid, just like when I bought these contracts at $6.80, I continue to buy because we're basically at that price now at $7.05 on the contract. If you guys want to see the contract themselves, they really are unaffected, right? We're down 3% on them. So it's not like the contracts are under pain or we're bleeding or anything, and we have till 2026 we can hold them, which is also why I want to buy more because, I mean, if they're barely down on the day and SoFi tanks 10%, that's probably a good reason to average up on these or average down on these. But unfortunately, they didn't fill. And unfortunately as well, SoFi just was not able to gain any momentum. I do think this is going to bounce at some point, and we're going to make a slight gain on these options, or if we hold them for longer, we'll make a broader gain. But I think being down 10% is stupid. Now, what are some of the problems I had with earnings as I've kind of condensed everything that happened? So here's the first thing. For some context, SoFi is not doing a lot in deposits. I know people are saying this was a record month for a record quarter for deposits. Even if that's the case, it's not a lot contextually. 90% of SoFi's deposits are direct deposit, and they're only bringing in $3 billion over the quarter, which, yes, is a lot. And maybe I'm, being a little too harsh here. But when I look at a company like Robinhood that's doing $3 billion a month, yes, I know Robinhood's giving you money to join the platform. I get it. But still, from comparison, if that money's not going to SoFi, it's going to another app like a Robinhood. And so that's not really the best thing in the world to see. So that's one thing. Second thing is they're not explaining how many users out of these 8 million accounts are active. At least Robinhood, when they took a nasty fall on their monthly active users, they reported it and they took the hit in the stock market as well, right? Because the street's going to get upset if people aren't active. SoFi didn't disclose that information, and that's a little concerning. Like, how many people out of these 8 million accounts, like me, I have an account, I don't use SoFi. So why should I be counted, primarily to investors as someone who has who uses SoFi when I don't use it? So I think that's the big thing that was important. We have a tweet here from Kelly. She said, turns out SoFi is just a bank. And I think that's something that probably needs to be brought into broader discussion. On Friday on the market close, we made we talked for a good 20 minutes about SoFi being valued as a bank. And if SoFi does not announce anything on the B2B tech side, it was going to be hurt. Because as a bank, you could argue that it's a fair value or overvalued given the price to book. And that's just not what we got. We didn't get any B2B updates on this. So they're only guiding for 17% growth. Deposits are only $3 billion. The tech platform is growing 21% year over year, but the overall revenue is 17%. So that 21% is a small minority of the larger CAGR. That's 17% in terms of revenue. And one other picture that I saw, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. They missed on every Q2 estimate. Let's see if I can find the picture. SoFi missed on pretty much every Q2 estimate. And that was the biggest thing. Can I find this picture? Okay, no, I can't find this picture. I'm going to get to Noto. We'll listen to him talk. But they missed on adjusted EBITDA, they missed on profitability, and they missed on guidance for Q2. So for Q1, they beat on all those metrics. For Q2, they didn't. So the street's kind of like, okay, so you beat on for Q1. So like, that's good. But then you're not going to put that in Q2. This convertible debt exchange you did only is taking away 30 million of profits or 59 million of profits from Q1. So you kind of only made 30 million, not 88 million. So why should we get so excited? And then there's no big update on the B2B side of the business when it comes to the banking sector, right? So from that perspective, I think that was the biggest problem when it came to SoFi, and that's the issue we had in the stock today. That's why the street is upset. Let's listen to Noto right now. Noto went on CNBC. The problem with Noto as well, he just didn't sound that inspiring either. And so let's pull up him and see what he had to say in the context of SoFi.
Is SoFi CEO Anthony Noto. Anthony, welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
So why is the stock down 9% despite a strong increase to guide? What is the street taking from this?
Yeah, I think it's important to focus on the results and what that means for the full year and then what that remains for our 3-year outlook. So in the quarter, we achieved 26% year-over-year growth in revenue, $581 million. We had 25% EBITDA margins. We grew that almost 100% at $144 million. More importantly, we have grown tangible book value per share 16% sequentially by about $600 million. We had record deposits of $3 billion and really strong overall performance. The most important thing about those trends that I'd point out, and the reason why 2024 is a transition year, is the growth was driven by low capital, high return businesses, our technology platform business, and our financial services businesses. Those two businesses, when combined, grew 54% year over year against lending that was flat. As we came into 2024, given the uncertainty in rates and the economy, as well as liquidity for the industry, not us, and despite having excess capital, we made a decision to put the resources behind these high return businesses that actually are big enough now to drive our overall growth and profitable enough to do that. And so that's the key message coming out of the quarter, is that transition is taking place and going incredibly well, which sets us up for a great 2024. We actually raised 24 revenue guidance by more than our beat. The comparison to Q2, we'd not provided Q2 guidance before. The street had an estimate there that was above what we guided to, but for the full year, estimates will be going up relative to consensus by more than our beat in Q1.
Okay, so thanks for clarifying all the expectations game. What can you tell us about credit?
So again, the question was, why is the stock down? And he kind of gave some talking points. And I think that was the tough part about this interview. It's like, didn't really help give more confidence in the stock.
Quality right now for borrowers.
Yeah, what we've said is that credit will normalize back to pre-COVID levels, and we're on track to do that. Our life of loan loss targets for our unsecured personal loans are 7 to 8%, and we remain comfortable with those expectations. We are higher in credit than most. We focus on prime credit, and we have very high FICO scores and good cash flow ratios when we underwrite credit. But we've taken a more conservative view on credit, primarily because of the fact that it's not clear where rates will go. At one point last year in October, people were talking about higher for longer. Then by the end of the year, they were talking about 6 rate cuts, and now we're looking at 1 to 2 rate cuts. That type of volatility and uncertainty creates a backdrop that we think allows us to be more conservative in lending and much more aggressive in technology platform in our financial services business. A lot of people don't realize that in our financial services business, we have SoFi Money, SoFi Invest, SoFi Insurance, SoFi Credit Cards, and a few other high margin businesses. And that's now profitable, which allows us to scale that acquisition. And that's what's driving our 44% growth in members to 8.1 million now and almost 12 million products.
Anthony, there's been some dissection of the eco data, the macro data last few days, specifically the saving rate going to the low 3s. And some argue it's a sign of stress, that consumers are sort of living on the edge. Others argue this is all about the boomer generation spending every last penny of their nest egg. Do you have any idea what's going on?
Well, we definitely have a member base that's saving. Our deposits grew a record $3 billion in the quarter. We provide a very attractive interest rate of 4.6% on your savings with direct deposit or with this large recurring deposit on a monthly basis. So we're seeing great trends there. And it's not just the growth in deposits, it's also the growth in spending. We had about $1.8 billion of debit spending on the platform, up from the low 1 billion last quarter. So we're annualizing about $8 billion now. And again, that's on a member based in SoFi Money that's at 3.5 million.
So again, it was, I don't know, man. It just wasn't the most inspiring performance. Again, I like Noto. I'm a fan of Noto. Don't get me wrong. I think he's an exceptional CEO. I just felt this performance was a bit tough. As Mario says, they lowered revenue guidance for next quarter. Exactly. That lowering of revenue guidance is really what I think has got the street upset, because at the end of the day, their price to book is close, is 1 or 1.2. Every other bank is close to 1.2 to 1.5. And, you know, those banks are much more profitable than a company like SoFi. So the bottom line is I think SoFi is oversold and it's going to bounce. Are you doing an earnings night tonight? We're going to look at MicroStrategy. We're not going to listen to the call because the call is going to be boring. There's nothing exciting there, but we're going to look at their earnings in about 4 minutes. But I don't know what the long term looks like right now for SoFi. I think, in the next 10 years, yes, SoFi will be fine because it's going to grow as a bank, and one day we'll give dividends, all this stuff. But if you're in this thing for a pump to like 12 or 15, which is what I thought by the end of the year, I thought 12 was very reasonable. I don't know if we get it right. We got to really see kind of how this plays out. I do think down 10% is stupid. 142 million shares have been traded. On average, about 40 million shares get traded. So it's up almost 3x the average volume on the stock to the downside. There will be a short sale rule tomorrow because it's down 10% today. So I think we'll get a bounce. Question will be, what does that bounce end to? And, this thing could get back to $8 on no news, right? Just normal market dynamics. And then people have to make a decision. Do they want to stay in the company or do they want to get out? And we'll see how that plays out. But so far, it looks like it's going to be a little bit of purgatory for the next couple months. Remember, the Fed talks on Wednesday as well. If the Fed doesn't say anything interesting, then, or if the Fed says anything that's not only not interesting, but actually bad, then SoFi could get hit along with every other company, right? But that could just be bad for every company in the market. Tesla right here, 193, 232 million shares have been traded of Tesla. On average, 100 million shares are traded. So double the amount of shares traded, $617 billion in market cap. Tesla basically adding around $80 billion today of market cap, which is just phenomenal. Tesla shorts have lost $5.5 billion. S3 Partners put out some data just an hour ago that short sellers are down $5.5 billion. And, you can't blame them. You were shorting a stock that was down 40% year to date at one point. You would think at 140, you take some profits on your short. But if you went short at 140, A, that's already egregious because the thing's, down 40% year to date. B, it's kind of like, well, wait a second, take some profits, right? Why get so greedy to the point where you think it's going to 125 or 100, but sentiment takes over. Today, going up 15% in a day, which is not easy for a company like Tesla, dude. Again, that's a lot of money being moved to the upside. There's going to be a lot of shorts that eventually have to cover, and that covering might have happened today, which is what's propelling the 15%, or it's going to happen over the next coming weeks, which could maintain the 15% as some people sell. Drew Baglino sold 80 million shares, I think. No, 18 million. He sold $181 million worth of shares last week at $181 strike price. If he had waited, he had 90 days to do this. If he had waited literally 3 days, he would have made a lot more money, right? Because the stock's at 194. He would have made $12 more a share, which would have amounted to tens of millions for him. So no one really knows how to time this thing, and the shorts definitely have not got the timing right because it has collapsed, or because it has gone up after collapsing. So we'll see how this plays out. We got to give a shout out to Kathy. I mean, Kathy has just done exceptionally well in calling the bottom on Tesla and calling the top. She was selling at 270 and 280 back in June of 2023, July 2023, right before their Q3 2023 earnings, or Q2. And she's been buying at 140, 150. So nice to see some more momentum there on Kathy. ARK is actually up today. ARK's finally having a green day. It hasn't had a green day in a while, up 2.3%. So good for Kathy getting some upside from Tesla. All right, so I think we got to get our eyes on MicroStrategy. We got 9 seconds until the market closes. If you're new here, we do ring a bell at those at 4 p.m. So please brace yourself there. But MicroStrategy, all eyes on that. Let's see the numbers they put out and how the market reacts to that. 4 p.m. Monday, April 29th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now closed. All right, markets closed. Here we go. Also, we have Paramount earnings. That is correct. So the earnings we have today after hours, which is right now, is today's Monday. MicroStrategy and Paramount. Those are the ones that matter. We have Yum Brands. That's okay. But like MicroStrategy and Paramount. So let's pull those up. Those are the ones I'm looking for Bitcoin. MicroStrategy really, really, really matters. And then Paramount. Well, the thing about Paramount is there's supposed to be a buyout, right? By Sky Capital or something. So I don't even know if Paramount matters. That it's up 3% today. Yeah. I mean, I don't think their earnings matters that much because there's already been an offer in place. I think they're getting bought at like 13 a share. So shouldn't be that crazy on them, but MicroStrategy, that's a big one. Let's look at some stocks before we get into MicroStrategy. ARK, 45.13. SoFi down 10.48% on the day. Tesla up 15.3%. Palantir had an okay day. Palantir 2280 up 1.33%. Robinhood, I think, got beaten up because SoFi got beaten up. So all of FinTech got hit. Robinhood down 3%. PayPal, I think, did it close at 67? No, wow, closed at 66.99. PayPal earnings tomorrow, 8:15. I'll be live with Jesse and the Couch Investor. So tomorrow, probably 8 a.m., we will be live. The results come out, I think, at like 8, and then the call's at 8:30. So we'll be streaming that call. S&P was green, 0.35% of the day. Snowflake was down 0.41%. IWM, 0.79%. Teladoc was up 3%. Roku up 4%. QQQ up 0.41%. NVIDIA took a little bit of a hit. NVIDIA right here up 0.07. And then Google took a hit, and I think a deserved hit because it went up a lot. And so people took some profits. Very reasonable, down 3% after going up 12%. Google now at 167, still a phenomenal quarter. So Google likely, as long as they keep executing, I think they should be fine. We're probably not going to see them come back down to 158 unless the Fed has something else in mind. All right, MicroStrategy's down 4%. MicroStrategy's down 4%. MicroStrategy is down 4%. Let's see if I can pull up their numbers. MSTR earnings. Oh, we already got the numbers. Did we? No. That's Netflix. MicroStrategy. No, we don't have those numbers yet. Okay, let me go on Twitter. I'll probably get them on Twitter. Let's see who has MicroStrategy in the chat. Who has MicroStrategy? Who has MicroStrategy? Who owns this one? Okay, I think we got it. They own 214,000 Bitcoin. The company has acquired 25,250 Bitcoin for 1.65 billion since the end of Q4. Total revenues are down 5% year over year, 115 million bucks. Total revenues are down. That's just the subscription side of the business. The company raised 1.5 billion through capital markets and executed successful convertible debt offerings. That's what they used to buy the Bitcoin. They reported a net loss of 53 million. So they reported a loss on earnings per share. It's down 5%. Now, technically, if you take in the FASB rules, they're actually making a crap ton of money per share because if you divide their Bitcoin profits by the number of shares they have, they're up a lot. But the actual GAAP earnings, they are down. EPS, they lost 53 million. Rafi says, what does MicroStrategy do besides Bitcoin? That's pretty much what they do. They have a business intelligence software that has been running since the year 2000. I'm surprised they're still in business. I don't know who buys MicroStrategy software, but that business does about 115. They basically does 500 million a year, so 115 million a quarter. It's not that exciting. They're more of a Bitcoin development company, but they use that to subsidize their purchases of Bitcoin. Why buy MSTR when you can buy Bitcoin? Again, it's for leverage, for alpha, right? The whole idea is you buy options on it or you get leverage on it. MicroStrategy trades at a decent premium to Bitcoin, but not insane. So if you do buy options, there is a relative chance that if Bitcoin goes to 100,000, MicroStrategy can go to 3,500, 4,000. It is risky, so you got to be careful doing that. But that is one of the core theses that keeps people alive. The short float also is, I think, about 20%. So that's part of the thesis that if Bitcoin goes up, the shorts have to cover. If Bitcoin gets to 100,000 or 80,000. You just can't continue to leave it unchecked. So that could cause a short squeeze as well. Paramount's up 1.1% after hours. I'm going to pull up their numbers and see if we get anything there. So that's what we got for MicroStrategy. Nothing crazy. Nothing insane. Let's see if CNBC has any coverage as well. And then I want to talk more about Tesla because there are some other things around FSD in China that we should discuss. All right, we have some earnings on CNBC. Let's see what they have to say. The CEO of Paramount stepping down. All right, we got some breaking news there. Bob Backish is out. Yeah, CEO's out. Here we go.
This November, starting this week in the green as well. Joining us now is Emily Rowland of Hancock Investment Management and Tim Urbanowitz of Innovator Capital Management. Good afternoon to you both. Emily, I'm going to start with you because we are in the thick of earnings season. We know that has been driving more of a risk on sentiment here in recent trading sessions. And oh, by the way, we're starting to see the pickup in deal making. Look no further than potential with Paramount as the latest example.
Yeah, absolutely. The story to us so far in earnings season has been the tech and communication services sectors really carrying the market here. Earnings up 30 to 40%. on a year-over-year basis versus just about 2% for the S&P 500. Now, of course, the reaction to those earnings reports has been pretty mixed. A lot of the good news was already in the price, so we're seeing a variety of reactions. And in fact, the market's starting to reward those momentum stocks that have worked so well over the past 6 months after a week or so of being dragged down. So interesting, notable environment here. Earnings look great, but again, the market's been in love with a lot of these stocks for some time, so we may need to let a little bit of the air out here.
Okay, Tim, we had a pullback. It's almost like it never even happened. And so I wonder what that means for this week, because we did see markets or stocks move a little bit lower on the Treasury news we got in the past hour or so. But right now, in general, it really is the calm before the storm between the Fed decision, the jobs report, and nearly 175 S&P 500 companies reporting results, even as investors do continue.
All right, let me move on to a couple of other things because they're not exactly talking about Paramount yet, but we're going to get updates on there. So this is what we got for MicroStrategy. 65,000 per Bitcoin is what they bought this quarter. You guys can see it, right? Yep, 65,000 per Bitcoin. So right now, Bitcoin's 3,000 below that. So they're underwater on that just a little bit. 214,000 Bitcoins at a cost basis of 35,000. So they spent $7 billion, basically up 90% on those. So up about 6 billion roundabout. Total revenues of 115 million, subscription services revenues of 23 million. At the world's first Bitcoin development company, MicroStrategy is committed to the continued development of the Bitcoin network through our activities in the financial markets, advocacy, and technology innovation. It is through our unique Bitcoin strategy and solid track record as an operating company that we now hold 214,000 Bitcoin. We are very pleased. In the first quarter, we raised 1.5 billion. Yeah, some same stuff we already knew. Same stuff we already knew for MicroStrategy. Look, it's let's go to the stock. It's not a horrible earnings at all, and that's because Bitcoin is up over the past 3 months 60%. Paramount up 3.67%. If Bitcoin was not up, that would be the issue. But Bitcoin's up, and so they're up really nicely. They're down about 2.5%. Nothing crazy. I think some people thought there would be like a 10% swing or something to the upside or downside. If Bitcoin was trading differently, yes, but because it's not that different. All right, we got Paramount results. Let me pull that up. We'll do Paramount result, then we'll talk about Tesla. Then we will discuss good old Tesla. All right, Paramount increased revenue 51% year over year. Not bad. Reached more than 71 million subscribers. I think they were at like 65 million last quarter. Total advertising revenue is up 17%. Total company revenue up 6%. Generated 260 million of net operating cash flow and 209 million of free cash flow in Q1. So TV media put in about 5 billion. Direct to consumer 1.8 billion, filmed entertainment 605 million. They made 7.6 billion in total on revenue, and they lost 417 million in the quarter. So they are not profitable, but that's way better than the 1.2 billion they lost last quarter. So they're up 66% on EPS year over year. Again, they're going to get bought out, so it doesn't matter too much. I don't watch Paramount Plus. I know 71 million people apparently do. They added 3.7 million subscribers in the quarter. So, I mean, people watch this. I don't watch too much, but Netflix is really the company here that's able to do this profitably over everybody. All right. Not bad for Paramount. Let's go to Tesla. So I want to play this clip right here. That pretty much concludes earnings for today, guys. There's nothing else that's that exciting. Tomorrow is going to be insane. We have SMCI, AMD, and Amazon after hours. So like tomorrow is going to be absolutely insane. But in the morning, we have PayPal. I want to play this clip on Tesla and what's going on in the world of Tesla. What's very interesting here is this data privacy / security thing they set up with China today and Baidu, which is the main reason that FSD is even being deployed today in China, has the potential to be deployed, which is why the markets are excited for the potential of FSD writ large. So let's listen to one of the more bullish analysts from RBC, what he has to say about China and Tesla, and then we'll discuss this more in depth and talk about some of the numbers around FSD. Here we go.
Major milestone in China. Chinese regulators removing restrictions on the EV makers' advanced driver assistance technology after passing the country's data security requirements. As part of that deal, China's Baidu will provide mapping for Tesla. Those shares also higher on the news. And we should note this news coming on the heels of Elon Musk's surprise trip to China, where he met with the Chinese premier in Beijing on Sunday. For more on how significant this is to Tesla and to the stock going forward, I'm joined by Tom Narayan, the lead equity analyst at RBC Autos at RBC Capital. Tom, good to see you. So I get conceptually why this is a big deal. The part that I don't get yet, maybe you can help me with, is how relevant is the existing US data in training for Chinese full self-driving, or regionally is this completely separate training? Because I imagine, I mean, data you get training in Des Moines isn't going to be that great in New York City, right? We drive different in different places in this world.
Yes and no. Is the highway driving is already as good as it's going to get. It's amazing. The difficult part is the urban environments. And what we've noticed from urban environments in China is that they actually are pretty similar to urban environments in the United States. And the other thing I would note is, remember, the Chinese, it's a central government authority that wants this to happen, that wants to have level 2+ and potentially more robotaxis, et cetera. So there is a more likelihood that we'll get to autonomy faster, actually, in China than there will be in the US. So while, like, rural areas, highways may be somewhat different, that part is not the difficult part. It's really the urban environments. And in the dense urban environments in China, it's actually not as different as what we have in the US.
Looking out for investors, is there a kind of TikTok risk here for Tesla? I mean, Teslas are,
I think it's a really good question.
Driving around with cameras on them, sensors, looking at who's going where, how people drive. The argument could be made, I'm sure, from the Chinese government side, and probably has been made. It's why it took this long to get this kind of approval. But boy, that's spy material if it's all getting sent to the US. So could this end up being a bargaining chip getting turned on and off in these periods of US-China tensions? Or is there enough benefit, social, societal benefit that China's getting that they're not going to want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for a long time where they didn't allow that data to go back to the US for the, algorithmic learning. So clearly the reason why they accepted it now is there's a reason, and it's what you just pointed out. It's safety. FSD in the US is 5 times safer than a regular car, not 5% more, 5 times safer, right? So, governments like China, certain states in the US, they're looking for the greatest good to society. It's saving lives. It's definitely a huge utility that it does. So I think it's really them looking at what's the best thing for society, and it's saving lives, limiting accidents. That's really what's the driving force here.
Does this end up helping Tesla longer term with what might be seen as a margin problem, right? There have been all these price cuts as Chinese EV competitors are going up against Tesla. Do you think Tesla is going to license this technology to others within China and therefore make margin whether they're selling hardware or not? Or are they going to keep this internal Apple style and use it to try to justify selling their cars either at higher prices or getting a government subsidy if they can prove through data that it is safer?
Yeah, and I just want to point out, I've had FSD and Robotaxi together worth like 70 to 80% of my price target for a long time now, almost a year. So it's not only it is the margin, right? It's the software business subscription. My model has it at $50 a month, and they've lowered it from 200 to 100. Just imagine when you put the gross margins on a software product, the multiple you can get. So part of it's the valuation you get from re-rating the stock as a tech company, a software company. The other aspect, exactly what you pointed out, is the margin story. And we've seen what's happened with auto margins coming down. They probably will come down some more with the new affordable car. But it doesn't matter if you can slap on an amazing subscription on it that gets you a higher margin. So if we could see margins overall in aggregate slowly creep up because of FSD take rate, and we're hearing already the version 12 free trial was a smashing success, then that translates into greater margins overall. You'll definitely see the narrative for Tesla change from being a car company to something obviously much, much more.
So I think there was a couple points there that were really interesting in terms of what he said. Essentially, this idea that Tesla working with China in this Baidu partnership is ultimately beneficial for all parties involved. And then at least RBC, the analyst, is saying that China really wants safe driving. And from his research, FSD is 5 times better than regular driving. So if China is willing to cooperate on the data security front and not pull like a TikTok type of a scenario, which, by the way, we can't put it against the CCP. If BYD somehow magically ends up with a phenomenal FSD product in 2 years after Tesla shared all the data with Baidu and BYD are both owned by the Chinese government, like that would be a little that would be a little predictable is the best word, even though it would suck for that to happen. So I hope Tesla's data advantage stays proprietary to Tesla, but by then, hopefully the vehicles themselves are just that much better. And even if the CCP wanted to give the data to BYD, that they wouldn't be able to compete. But so far, it seems like China wants this to happen. They need this to happen. And in order for this to happen, you need to be able to, definitively make sure that there is a substantial partnership, and Tesla and Baidu, two of the biggest companies in the world, Baidu, one of the biggest companies in China, makes sense for that partnership to actually end up playing out. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But Tesla right here, 194 after hours. Look at that, up another, basically flat after hours, but it's up slightly, 15.3% of the day. MicroStrategy is down 2%. I think all MicroStrategy shareholders are probably happy that even though Bitcoin's down, the stock is relatively flat because there's a lot of volatility baked into MicroStrategy. So being down 2% after hours, not too bad. Google's up a little bit after hours. Nvidia's up a little bit after hours. PayPal, 67.03 after hours. I think their earnings will go good. We'll talk about them in a second. And then Robinhood, 17.35 after hours. Paramount CEO has stepped down, 12.53. Probably these guys are getting bought out at 15 or 17 a share. So earnings shouldn't have that big of a surprise for the eventual buyer. But Paramount earnings was today as well. And then SoFi after hours, a little bit of a bounce at 7.05. It was basically down 10% on the day. The other upsetting thing about the SoFi thing, and I said this on Twitter, and I didn't mean to say this in a mean way, but it is what it is, right? Like if you're going to be public, this is the stuff you got to deal with. Anthony Noto on a podcast with Kathy Wood said Robinhood needs to watch their lane when it comes to building out credit cards. He literally said to stay in their lane. And it's ironic to me that he had so much energy for the competitor on the podcast, and then on his own earnings call, and maybe we heard different earnings calls, but from the people I talked to today, I don't think the energy was there. It just didn't feel like the energy was there. And it was tough for me to reconcile that. Like, how is the energy not there on a triple beat? It just didn't feel the way it should have. So I think that was also a disappointing part around the earnings. It just didn't feel like the dude really cared enough about this call. People were saying, "Oh, he's in San Francisco. It's 5 a.m." Like, come on, dude. Like, let's. This is an $8 billion company, majority retail base. If you can't wake up for a triple beat on earnings, even if it's financially engineered, what are you going to wake up for, right? So it did feel weird. It really did. It did feel weird. Is that why you're upset at Noto? He told Hood to stay in their lane. No, if I was upset at Noto, I would not have bought SoFi options going into this earnings. I wanted SoFi to go up. I am not a SoFi bear. I was hoping the stock. I get zero pleasure out of saying, "Oh, SoFi sucks, Robinhood's great." If that was the case, I just wouldn't have money in SoFi, right? Like I would just be straight up bearish SoFi. I would say bad things about SoFi. I wouldn't have any money in it. I think it's undervalued. I do. I think it's $7. It's stupid. I think fair value is closer to $9, $10. So it doesn't bring me any happiness to say this, but when I'm seeing the stock go down 10%, and I'm then comparing a CEO who was basically talking shit about the competitor on a podcast, telling them to stay in their lane, those are fighting words, dude. And this is a ruthless competitive environment. If your numbers don't live up to that, it's hard to compete from that perspective. So it's tough. It's annoying. I think the stock will come back to normal. I think it'll be back at $8 relatively soon. But on today's day, it obviously is annoying. Palantir right now, after hours at 22.86. Nvidia after hours, 8.81, up about 0.5% as well. Dat Nugent says, how people judge energy is by if the stock goes up or down. If it was up 15%, people would say the energy was phenomenal. I mean, maybe you're right, but at least I'd be up 15%. Like, maybe this analysis is purely contextual to the stock price, but at least I'd be up 15%. So, I mean, look, it's just the nature of markets. If things go down, it really exacerbates some of the pain that markets feel. You can make such an easy bear case for Tesla right now if it was at 120, like such an easy bear case. You could also make a pretty damn good bull case now that's at 195, right? But that's the nature of the markets. It's you're constantly competing against each other with these narratives. And the question is which one ends up winning out. One more piece of Robinhood news, then we'll get to some more macro data. Nolak says Amit is right. I fell asleep during the earnings call. Yeah, I mean, the other thing about the earnings call is like, it is... The CFO got a question, and then he started reading off the PowerPoint to answer a question. I understand reading off the PowerPoint during the actual call, but when you get asked the question, you're supposed to synthesize and crystallize the data to make it listenable, and it just wasn't listenable. One quick thing from Robinhood, they officially unveiled their new subsidiary, Robinhood Derivatives LLC. When I mean official, I mean I found the job listing. They didn't like make an announcement or anything. But as you can see right here, Robinhood is seeking an experienced professional to support customers, including power customers, on complex topics, including margin, options, and futures. Their derivatives LLC is a new product that will provide best-in-class futures product and later options on futures, forex, and futures trading across multiple account types. This means that in Q2 or Q3, we're likely going to get a futures product from Robinhood, which is going to only deepen the ecosystem, get traders to be more active on the platform, and probably continue to build out loyalty within the broader use cases for Robinhood. The one thing I thought that was interesting about this is that the retirement product on Robinhood just hit $6 billion assets under custody, and that's a whole different team shipping for a whole different set of consumers, whereas the trading team or the futures team is shipping for the traders. So you got one side of the company shipping for the long-term holders on retirement, another side of the company working for the active traders, and you've got all these different consumer segmentations being worked on in a very symbiotic way, and hopefully earnings really shows the multitude of offerings Robinhood brings in the numbers themselves. But I think that's something to definitely be excited about, given how they're working as well. Nick Gunj says, Amit, do you think Hood UK will do options soon? Remember, I asked Vlad on our podcast if he would, and he said it will take a little bit of time. Actually, it's a minute clip, so let me actually just play that clip because it's only 1 minute. But I did ask him, hey, what's going on? Why aren't there options or ESAs or margin in the UK? And the answer was basically it's going to take a little bit of time. So let me pull that up. It's a 1 minute clip, and we can watch that right here. Or actually, it's a 2 minute clip. Let's pull that up, and then we'll move on to some more macro stuff. Can I play this window? Okay, here we go. Can you guys see this? Yes, you guys see this. Okay, here we go. This is Vlad on the UK launch. The UK launch, how is that going? I know some customers are saying there's no ISA.
The behavior, it's pretty similar. And as we talk to
It's muted. Dude, why did you guys take so long to tell me that?
behavior, it's pretty similar.
You guys took forever to tell me that. You guys took forever. What? See how this is your fault. This is your I'm gonna gaslight you guys right now. How's this? you took forever to tell me this. Okay, let me play another one. You still can't hear me? You should be able to hear me now, though, right? Yeah, you should be able to hear me now. Wow. Okay, hold on. Let me pull it up here. I'll pull up the unlisted YouTube version I have right here. The UK. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Sorry. I'm very sorry. Okay, here we go. This should be better. The UK launch, how is that going? I know some customers are saying there's no ISA, there's no margins, there's no options yet. Do you guys think that can be a really big market for you as you bring more of those features?
I think one of the things that when we look at the UK launch that's got us very excited is that these customers resemble Robinhood customers in the US. So if you look at the behavior, it's pretty similar. And as we talk to UK customers in the US, they want things that we have in the US.
Why is it being so weird? Why is it not sharing correctly, dude? Why it's being stupid? Why is it? It's like, hold on. This is so dumb. It's like being. Let me change this real quick. One second. This is the I think I know why. Hold on. Okay, now we're gonna get it perfect. Perfect. I'm sorry. It was being so stupid. All right, this is gonna be perfect now. There's gonna be no echo. I heard the echo as well. This should be good. Here we go. UK launch, how is that going? I know some customers are saying there's no ISA, there's no margins, there's no options yet. Do you guys think that can be a really big market for you as you bring more of those features?
I think one of the things that when we look at the UK launch that's got us very excited is that these customers resemble Robinhood customers in the US. So if you look at the behavior, it's pretty similar. And as we talk to UK customers, they want things that we have in the US. So I think international expansion, the thesis behind it at Robinhood is the core platform can be used to extend and expand internationally with minimal customization. And the customization that we need is around the edges.
Right.
Like, instead of a 3% IRA match, maybe we do a 3% ISA match.
Correct.
With gold, right?
Yeah.
But it's really around the edges and with things like tax wrappers. And the fact that Customers want options. They're asking for crypto. They want an ISA with a great match. They love 24-hour market, and they love the 5% AER on cash. I think those are all really positive things that tell us if we just roll out the products that we currently have in the US into the UK, which is mostly a regulatory process of getting the right licenses, then we'll be in good shape. And then there's platform level things that we know customers are asking us for that actually benefit the US and every other country.
Right.
Those are like multi-currency wallets. So you can hold your pounds and your dollars in one account. It's going to be useful for US customers too, because they like to trade currencies and hold different currencies. And so there's a lot of wood to chop in the UK, but we really love what we're seeing.
If that goes well, is Canada on the, I mean, like, you don't have to say specific countries, but is the rest of the world? Because I have a lot of people saying, when is Robinhood coming to Singapore, Asia, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this year we're focused on two things. One is rounding out the product suite so that we deliver all these things that customers are asking for, but also expanding to new jurisdictions. And we've kind of built the machinery already to expand, and the cost of getting into a incremental jurisdiction is going to be much lower than what it took us to get to the UK.
Dude, I don't know why it took forever to try to get that video up there. I'm sorry about that. Farzad, we need you on the stream, bro. We need to we need your input on Tesla, even if it's for like 2 seconds. Farzad, do I have your number, Farzad? If we could get you to phone in, that would be amazing, dude. I really want to get you today specifically, because this is a day where Farzad's got to, he's too humble. He's not going to take a victory lap, but this is the day that we got. Farzad, I think I have your number, dude. Do I have your number? If I could call you for like 2 seconds and get you on the mic. Dude, we texted once a while ago. Hold on. I think I have your number. Yeah. Oh, you're on your computer. Give me 2 minutes. Oh, perfect. All right. We're going to get Farzad, guys. We got an exclusive. We got Farzad here. All right, Farzad, I'm tweeting you the link. So I'll send it in your DM. And there we go. We got the OG Tesla analyst coming onto the stream today. Okay, perfect. I sent it to you on Twitter. Perfect. Oh, this is great. We got to hear from him on a day like this. We've got to hear on a day. So anyway, finishing up the Robinhood thing that took me an hour to try to get that video up. Options are coming, ISAs are coming, margin is coming, but it's really hard because they have a ton of financial regulations they have to deal with, which are very difficult. But it will be out there, and that's just going to be even more compounding growth. I think this earnings, over 22 is likely. I think 25 is being, I think 25 is possible. Getting to 30 on this earnings, I think is going to be tough. I also think it will sell off, just like every company will sell off, especially because we're not going to get a rate cut anytime soon. But I think, could we get a pump to 22? I think it's very possible, because we hit 21 before off the gold news. Now we're going to get real solid numbers to back that up. And so the idea that this thing can start to explode, it's going to get fun. It's going to get fun. And again, the only difference between Robinhood and Sofi here, they're totally different businesses. One is a bank, one is a brokerage. But the core difference is one has a catalyst, one doesn't. Sofi doesn't have any catalysts, unfortunately. And that's not their fault. That's just the nature of the business. It's a bank. And if you're not going to make progress on the B2B side, then yeah, it's going to be a bank that's not going to have a ton of progress. Whereas Robinhood has a lot of catalysts. They have the crypto, they have the new futures product, they have the gold company. And you look, at the end of the day, the product itself, I think, is substantially better than Sofi. So when the product is that good and people are using it every day, you can keep building on that momentum. Sofi doesn't really have that at scale, But eventually, I think it'll be okay. So don't sell any covered calls this earnings on Hood. Yeah, I'm not selling covered calls on Robinhood or Palantir, because it's just too scary, dude. Like, I'd rather want the capital appreciation. So I think if you really want the stock, you have to ask yourself, is selling covered calls the best idea if you think there's a big implied move in the stock? And if there is, like, why would you sell Palantir covered calls at 25? Because if Palantir goes to 25, you don't want to be in that situation. Yes, you can roll them out, etc., but then you have to wish the stock comes down just for you to get even, which is a tough situation to be in. No one wants to be in that situation. How many Palantir shares do you own? About 3,500. We're at 3,500 right now. All right, I think we got him. We got the guy. What's up?
Amit is too legit to quit, bro.
Dude.
Can we just, in the chat, appreciate the incredible work that Amit has been doing? He's calling me humble, but this guy is about as humble as it comes. He freaking interviewed Vlad. This dude, his meteoric rise needs to be recognized. Amit, I am so freaking proud of you. You're the freaking man. Round of applause for Amit in the chat. Seriously, man, your hustle is like so inspiring. You're awesome. I love you, brother.
Appreciate you. That means a lot. I think you and me both appreciate the YouTube game. We basically started at the same time a couple years ago.
I think so.
And I got to I got to be where I am today. You got to be talking with Elon Musk every other day on Twitter. So both of us had different trajectories. But it's because, if people don't know, you worked at Tesla. You're very passionate about Tesla. And so you make some of the best content on YouTube, which is a competitive space to make content on for Tesla. So thank you for being here, dude. I'm so excited you're here on a day like this. And I just appreciate our friendship so much, to the point where we could hop on. I don't want to keep you here for an hour, so I'll try to limit it to like 20 minutes.
You got me for as long as you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're good. I wish a girl would say that to me one day. Okay, anyway.
Kelly's in the chat.
Even Kelly didn't say that, dude. She's just like, I was on the phone with Kelly an hour ago, and she's like, can we like get off the phone? Like, I have like taxes. All right, whatever. Like, go do your fucking taxes.
That's so funny.
Justin Trudeau. But
oh my God.
The stock has been in the gutter for the past month. It's up 35% or 25% in the past 3 weeks. What has been your overall sentiment, or your read on the sentiment, as the stock went to the lows of 138? And how do you describe how things have changed literally in the blink of an eye? Yeah,
it's one of the worst periods of sentiment that I can remember, maybe ever. It's funny because so Sawyer Merritt on X, shout out Sawyer, go check him out on X. He's honestly the best source for EV news on the internet, in my opinion. One of the best anyway. There's other guys too, like Dylan from Electric and other guys too. But on X, Sawyer's fantastic. But he had a post for his subscribers where he's like, I can't remember the last time sentiment has shifted this quickly for a story ever. Especially for Tesla. And the last time I can remember a sentiment shift like this was 2013, where Tesla first went profitable. But it kind of went from like unknown to known. This is the first time I've seen the story go from everybody hates it to like everybody loves it kind of story in like the span of a week. And it all happened because of how Elon Musk communicated the future of the company, which was indirect. It was a direct refutation of what Reuters and other reported, which was they're canceling or delaying their cheaper car. And he's like, nope, not only are we not canceling it, we're actually bringing it forward. And that started this sort of momentum for the story. And clearly the stock is just responding to that for multiple reasons. The first one was obviously because of that, and the second one is because China. China is approving FSD. So yeah, I went into earnings expecting I knew the numbers weren't going to be good. I didn't think whatever Elon was going to say, I didn't think it was going to really change the story much. But the way the market responded has been nuts. So it's wild. It's completely wild. Let's see if it sustains into the next few months. I think the setup is good, honestly, but it's been a wild thing to track. I haven't seen it like this before, like this sudden and this violent. Especially it being known as much as it has been known now. Did you there we go, 138 to 198. I mean, just a beautiful insane chart. Did you believe the Reuters stuff about the M2 being scrapped? Okay, why didn't you believe it? Because that would be one of the most idiotic strategic moves of all time. So if you think about the Tesla, again, Tesla's goal is the advancement of sustainable transportation, of electrification, right? If Elon is like, no, we're going all in on robotaxi and screw the cheaper car, he's basically saying we're going to stop at 2 million cars per year, and every additional factory production in our factories is going to go to a robotaxi car that's going to take multiple years to get approval everywhere. And now we're going to have all this auto capacity, all this capex just sitting there, not producing the vehicles that we need to produce. Even if we have to contextualize how many cars Tesla is selling right now. The 2 million cars-ish they're selling per year right now, their average selling price is $45,000. Okay. Right. And they have the best selling car in the world with the Model Y. And that car, excuse me, it's twice as expensive as the next runner-up, the Toyota Corolla, and it sells in a fraction of the markets, and it's an electric vehicle only, where a lot of these countries don't even have the quote-unquote infrastructure to support it. So they're already at 2 million cars per year with a very limited capacity to get to where they want to go long-term. And then now you're telling me, okay, Tesla's just going to give up on the rest of the market, and they're just going to go robotaxi and just play a game of just sitting on their supply chain dominance and their manufacturing manufacturing expertise and not come out with cheaper cars? No, of course not. It's insane. It was insane. So I think what happened is the Reuters guys got some some insight that, hey, they're changing plans, whatever it may be,
Right.
but it really is just bringing it forward. It's probably not going to cost as low as it would have if they went direct to Gen 3. There'll probably be like a $30,000 cost car instead of a potentially, or maybe less, maybe $28,000 instead of a $20,000 cost car. But they can still bring that some sort of car forward that is more affordable. And then as they ramp up the Gen 3 line, then maybe they start shifting the stuff over. Because then you have to contextualize that move within their breakthrough with V12. Because in a world where you have full self-driving, what does it mean? What does it mean to make a car, right? You can make a compact car that costs you $30,000 and charge $28,000, but if you know you're going to have unsupervised FSD and that's going to be $5,000 a year or maybe more in revenue, you make up your losses in a year. So you win, regardless. You win, right?
You win at a pretty high level. Yeah, I agree. I think the Reuters thing, it definitely got people scared. And everyone knew it made no sense. All the Tesla bulls knew it made no sense. And so everyone was a bit skeptical of it. And it turns out it was right to be skeptical. Did you, so the earnings, the numbers weren't amazing, but they did say they're accelerating production 6 months ahead in the H1 of 2025 versus H2. Do you think that also was enough to propel the stock because it's going to happen quicker than we thought?
I mean, I have a hard time believing that it didn't, because the reaction was so violent. You know, right. I mean, literally, the numbers were doo-doo. I think the EPS consensus was 51 cents, and they came in at 47.
Yep.
You know, like margins were okay. Like they were better than I expected. I think they were better than a lot of people expected, but it still wasn't where it needed to be as far as from like an earnings perspective. It just weren't making enough money. And for the entire year, for the last couple of years, the story has been, well, Tesla's not, the earnings power is going down. They're not earning as much, per unit sold. So that's what's dragging the business down. And then all of a sudden they come out and say, hey, guess what? This thing's coming sooner and it's not canceled, and we're gonna be able to sell it at a profit. As the assumption people are making, and that's gonna bring the earnings back. So yeah, I don't know what else would have made the stock do what it did for the last few days, but I don't know, dude. I've given up on the market. I just don't even. The market clearly doesn't. The market is emotional, and the market is a human creation, and humans are emotional. Therefore, the market is emotional, and we have proof of that.
And there's obviously emotional people that are influential in the market. One of those people is named Gary Black. He took a bit of a victory lap at 140. He had this really long post that we were right about this, and this.
And Ross jumped on that too. Ross
Gerber jumped on that as well. Two big people that I think the reason the Tesla community is so upset with these guys is because they got a lot of attention because of the stock. They made money on it. And then when things get bad, the cult is supposed to stick together through thick or thin. At the end of the day, you're trying to take on the world when it comes to Elon against all these big car companies. Mm-hmm. And it's like people leave just to make some money, just to like shift some money into different client assets. And it just feels inauthentic. How do you think he and Gerber are reconciling the fact that they sold relatively low and they have to deal with the fact that they might have to chase it now?
I agree. I mean, this is why I will never be in charge of anyone's money in my life except my own. It's because of exactly this moments like these. And let me be clear. I respect Gary. I really do. Even though he makes calls that I disagree with very strongly, and he knows where I disagree. Like he knows where him and I disagree. I still respect him because he is a very good window into Wall Street. To this day, I still view that Gary is a very good window into Wall Street because the way he thinks about the stock is really how the market thinks about the stock. In my opinion, Ross is somebody who's a little too emotional as it pertains to tracking Tesla stock. Yeah. I think I don't know. I don't know what value I get from following him, to be completely honest. And I respect him as a person. I'm sure he's a wonderful father and husband and all that good stuff. But when it comes to the story itself, it doesn't seem like he understands what Tesla is. I don't think he knows what he's invested in, to be completely honest.
Why do you think that's the case, given he made his initial hundreds of millions off Tesla from 2016 in investments?
I don't know. I mean, to listen to his rhetoric about how the company is, terribly set up for the future and that Elon is one of the main reasons why. And then, today we get news that Elon is probably the reason why they're able to strike a deal like this with China and name another CEO that can do that. Right. So it's like stuff like that. I'm like,
China.
especially China, right? So it's like, listen, and he has every right to voice his opinion and where he thinks the story is going. And listen, he clearly is successful with what he does, when it comes to running a fund in some way. But when it comes to the story, I just didn't expect somebody that would understand the story as well as he says he does to have the rhetoric he did. That's all. So there is a lot of like there's dissonance when I listen to him speak about the story. But listen, who knows? I mean, if people vote no on Elon's comp package in a month, then he can take a victory lap and see. See, I told you, people don't want Elon to run the company, but I highly doubt that's going to happen.
Let's talk about that real quick. What is your argument to any Tesla shareholders in the chat on what you're going to vote and how you think they might choose to vote?
If you vote no, this is the way I view it. If you vote no, you're basically saying that the plan that was initially voted on by investors, let's put aside how the plan was put together, because this is where the ruling comes, right? The ruling is more like about a procedural sort of administrative issue that they weren't forthcoming about some of the relationships between Elon and the board. Okay. And should they have been more transparent? Sure. They should have been more transparent. But does that change the fact that an overwhelming majority of investors voted yes on the plan and the plan came to fruition? If people vote no on that, I feel like that's going to make Elon feel a certain type of way.
Yeah.
That says, I made y'all a bunch of fucking money. I've been basically working for free for the better part of 5-6 years, and y'all are not going to pay me on something you decided to pay me on 6 years ago. Peace.
Yeah.
Like I have a hard time believing it would go any other way. But I really do feel like a majority of the people that are invested in Tesla understand that for Tesla to come to its long-term goals of FSD being everywhere, affordable EVs everywhere, 100 million Teslas on the road, the bot, energy, all these things, you need a force. You need a force that's driving that. That's a little bit of a lunatic, because you kind of need a little bit of a lunatic to drive that ship. And if you don't agree with that, then I don't think you understand what Tesla's actually doing, to be completely honest.
Have you been using FSD, the latest version?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. How is it?
Great. It's great.
Like, like, this is the real
It's great.
deal. It's getting there.
Yeah. The one thing I talked about with my wife today is like, and the 11 was doing this with us too, where 11 was very, very good for us. But the way it got us from point A to point B felt robotic, whereas the way V12 gets us from point A to point B feels human. And the huge difference there is that when you're in a robotic car, it's unpredictable because it doesn't have those like context cues and like those little clues that you get from a human driver that tells you, hey, I got this. I understand where the car's going. I understand where the traffic's going. The way I'm making this turn is giving you confidence that it's making the turn. When you put on the blinker, when you hit the brake, how hard you hit the brake, how hard you accelerate. There's little clues that you get from a driver that makes you understand that, hey, they've got it. That 11 didn't have. So you just had to kind of trust the system, and over time you learn to trust it. With V12, when you get into the car, you immediately feel like the car has it because it behaves exactly like a human. So when it comes to like passengers and say my wife, they're all like, yeah, this thing's crazy. I would use this all the time because it feels like I'm driving it, right? And that's the core thing is intent. The way the car communicates intent between itself and the driver and passenger has changed dramatically, and that's huge for adoption long term.
And intent is as fluid as starting to do a turn a millisecond earlier than doing a rigid turn, right? The rigid turn might get the job done, but the fluidity of it happening a second earlier might be more important to feel like a human. And
the other variable too is like as it pertains to FSD, if you think about it like Waymo, for example, with Waymo, you can't control the steering wheel and pedals, right?
Right.
So as a passenger, you're already in a mode that you're saying, I give up control to the car and I trust the car to do the right thing because I literally can't put any input. So when it does weird stuff, you're not like, oh, that was me. I have anxiety about how people are going to react to that on the road. You're like, well, the car did it. I'm like, who cares? Let the car do it. You might be on your phone, right? You might be on your phone just, watching whatever. Whereas with FSD, you're behind the steering wheel and pedals and you are in control. So you're constantly judging the system with every single little thing it does. And in a way, Tesla's FSD has to overcome this barrier of acceptance because we can put an input into the car. And so when it does weird stuff on the road, you feel responsible. Like you're in New York City and you're not leaving you're not getting off the green light as fast as you should. People are going to honk at you and you'll be like, oh shit, I should have went a little bit faster because I'm behind the steering wheel and pedal. But that's where V12 is so good, is that it removes that barrier as well, that it does exactly what you would have in that situation anyway. Right. So it's like it almost has to overcome a more stringent level of self-driving than say a Waymo, because you are ultimately in control. So imagine how good the system is going to be once everybody behind the steering wheel pedal is willing to give up the control, and how well that's going to perform in relation to the Waymo, because you're going through a more stringent process to get to self-driving than any other car maker, really, any other transportation company.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Farzad's YouTube is in the chat if those haven't checked him out. I have a question on that thing you just said right here about another transportation company. So Jason Calacanis, All In Podcast, he was on it this weekend, and he kind of alluded to Uber still capturing a lot of the value, even if robotaxis do get to scale. What are your thoughts on the Waymos, the Cruises, the Ubers of the world in comparison to Tesla's insane data advantage, and how that plays out materially for who wins the robotaxi race?
I have a hard time seeing how a player like Waymo will do well long term when their per unit cost would be so much higher than a Tesla's. If and when Tesla gets to the point where they have level 4 autonomy, where you don't have to be behind the steering wheel and pedal, right?
Right.
Waymo right now costs about $200,000 to make a Waymo car, and the number of units they have on the road is maybe single thousands, maybe even less. Whereas, if and when Tesla reaches level 4 with this current system, you have millions of cars on the road that cost no more than $35,000 to produce. So to me, it seems like Tesla can just flood the market with self-driving vehicles, literally, that cost a fraction to make at 100 times the scale. And they have their own app that they showed on their deck. They showed the little mock-up of what their ride-hailing app would look like.
Right.
And so if I view it through that lens, you have the lowest cost per unit, you have the largest scale by far, you have a gigantic data advantage, which will allow you to enter markets that nobody else is in, and then you have an app. So what's the point of the other guys? That's what I'm struggling through, because like you said, like Jason said on the app, he's like, well, Uber has a large advantage because that's where everybody goes.
Right.
I'm like, cool, but Tesla can be like, okay, our self-driving car costs a tenth of Waymo's, and we removed the driver, which is 60 to 70% of the cost of a car. So let's just literally do a promo that says whatever Uber does, we'll charge 30% less. Download the Tesla app now. Go anywhere you need to go for 30% less than Uber. And then Tesla still makes more money than Uber.
And we know because
their costs are so low.
There's no loyalty. If Lyft's giving me $10 cheaper, I'll do
exactly
it, right? No one gives a shit about the price unless it's cheaper.
And if anything, dude, and here's where the equation for self-driving breaks completely. What's one of the most luxurious things about driving and riding in a self-driving car? Privacy.
Yes.
Privacy.
Especially if you're a woman and it's night, it's
exactly. And you're telling me that if a company's out there with an app where they can flood the market with tens of thousands of these self-driving cars that give you privacy, they'll be there when you tell them, when the app tells you you'll be there. You're going to undercut everybody else. You tell me you're not going to pick that?
It's a good point. Now, Uber has a big advantage. They're in 170 countries, all that stuff. But still, I think you're talking about the fundamental thesis.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, if they think like they need to get the Uber network to reach out to the riders, then I'm sure they can work something there. But in the end, the player that can offer self-driving vehicles at a scale, at the lowest cost, with the safety and the privacy. And the other thing that Tesla has that nobody else has is that they have a clean integration with the phone. So you can communicate with the car directly. You can, show up to the Waymo and scan your QR code on the B-pillar camera, and it lets you in. Like, there's a bunch of different things. You can control the infotainment through your phone. There's just so many things that you can do with that, right? So it's like I feel like I would be shocked if they don't leverage that, if they don't flex those muscles, because they're so vertically integrated. Like, why wouldn't you put that to work? So.
Last couple of questions for you. This China thing, is it a big enough deal for the stock to be up 15%? Is it that important?
I mean, I think the way I think about it is the way I think about it is if China approves FSD, everybody approves FSD. That's the way I view it, because China has one of the most stringent regulations when it comes to this stuff. They're very protective of their companies. Their government is very protective of all the stuff that's going on there, data privacy and blah, blah, blah. Like, they don't want to give another country an advantage. Right. Yet they are willing to give an American company the ability to come in and use their self-driving technology in their country. It's like, okay, so if China approves it, why wouldn't the United States approve it? Why wouldn't European countries approve it? Why wouldn't the rest of the world approve it? Because you're automatically at a disadvantage. If you can have an ecosystem where transportation becomes super safe and super cheap and super entertaining and super private, you know, all this stuff, like, and then you're telling me that there aren't going to be senators in the United States being like, how can China have this advantage with an American company? This is crazy. Like, we need to have this. And then the Europeans, they'll take longer, but it'll eventually come to fruition. So that's how I read it. I think the regulatory hurdles for self-driving perhaps are not this Herculean. I mean, it will be difficult, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
It's definitely not impossible. You just have to have a good use case and something that makes sense. Even the Chinese government is willing to give a Chinese government has given an American company the ability to come in their country and operate a self-driving car.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It's a very big deal. And now the partnership with Baidu, also it's a win for China because Baidu's
Yes.
going to make some money off of this. And
Exactly.
Tesla's like, yeah, let's work with them. And American data doesn't seem to really be impacted here because American cars are American cars.
Right.
When the stock got to 138, were you upset or were you scared?
I was upset that I didn't do a good enough job in the last few months to have more cash so I can buy more. Truly.
Well,
Not
you
investment
have,
advice.
for those that don't know, a baby coming on the way. So
I
you're
do.
saving up. You're saving up some money.
Yeah. I was telling my wife, I'm like, I didn't do a good job for a baby. Clive, that's his name, Clive.
Oh, that's his name. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
What's the reason for that name?
My wife and I were in Jamaica a couple years ago, and this one baby kept coming up to us and saying hi. It's just cute little baby, and she was like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "Clive." And she's like, "Oh my God, that is the cutest name I've ever heard." This is crazy, and this is the crazy story. And I learned this not soon after that, or not soon before that. Her dad's middle name is Clive.
Wow.
As well. So it's like it's a Caribbean name, but it's also like it's just a cool, unique name, you know, that's not a lot of people have. So we went with it.
Clive. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Last question for you, Farzad. Thank you for coming
Yes,
on the
sir.
channel. It means so much.
Of
What are
course.
you expecting on 8/8?
Yeah. That's the fun stuff, huh? The 8/8 stuff. I think
I
we're
think it's
gonna
be
get
fucking crazy, dude. I think it's gonna be insane.
Okay, what do you think? Give me your prediction.
I think they're going to show a version of the boxed vehicle with no steering wheel and the platform that it operates on. Probably not into production. I think they're going to say, hey, it's starting to get into production, or we've already started. And by June 2025, it'll be out in like San Francisco or Austin, and we'll start getting the show on the road. But I think they're going to show what the robotaxi looks like, the Cybercab, how they're building it. And then they're probably not launching it that day, but I think they'll show off what it looks like.
Yeah. I think they'll do that for sure. And I think they'll also show the cheaper car. Because now I'm feeling like they're going to show the cheaper car, because on the call, you know, the investors were asking more details about like, how come you're leveraging the existing manufacturing line? Can you give us some ideas? And Elon's like, y'all going to have to wait until A8. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is not just robotaxi then. Okay. Well, that's my speculation.
It feels more.
Dude, his confidence is through the roof. Have you noticed that? Like he's just out.
That's the actual question I also wanted. What do you think about Elon right now? How he's dealing with this? Because Twitter's doing great. I mean, I don't know about the financials, but it's growing massively.
Yeah.
Neuralink has had breakthrough. SpaceX is going well. He's getting hit by the mainstream media every day, but that's nothing new. How do you think he's personally dealing with his mindset?
The vibe I get from him is one of supreme confidence and a lot of I told you guys. I told y'all. You know, like he lives in Texas now. I told y'all. I think that's his vibe. But that's because he's seeing in stuff internally that we haven't seen yet. So maybe he's seeing like 12.4, like the latest version, 12.5 for FSD. And maybe he's seeing the neural nets and all the investments they've made into the hardware for training compute starting to really pay off. And, and obviously he knew this approval in, there you go. He knew this approval in China was going to go down. Don't mess with Tesla, Texas. Just a lot of confidence. It could also be like, and I'll take the devil's advocate approach. It could also be that he knows his comp plan vote is coming up in about a month.
Yeah.
And the stock's been taking a beating, and people are, let's say, they think he's distracted, and this is his way of saying like, no, just relax. I'm here to hype everything up. Don't worry, I'm ready to go. Blah blah blah. But it is weird how this FSD V12 stuff, the China approval, moving up the car to an earlier date, and all this communication about, from him about FSD, I don't think that's coincidence. I think, and I have the freaking software, like I drive it, and to this day I'm like, I do not understand how anybody would think that Tesla is not going to figure out self-driving. I do not get it. Yeah.
You would have to be bearish on the concept of self-driving, which it seems like we're going into a world where that's the only thing that's going to matter.
I agree. I think that is the only thing, is like self-driving will never work. Yeah. And if you're there, I respect that opinion. But if you're there and you haven't been in a Tesla car doing FSD V12, I strongly encourage you to try that, because even a Waymo, go to LA, SF, or Phoenix, or wherever they operate. Go try a Waymo and see if that changes your mind, because that's where we're going.
Yeah. It's going to be exciting, dude. I'm so happy for you. You're one of the main guys of Tesla. Obviously, when the stock goes up, it tends to be easier to live your life. It's same thing with me with Palantir, right? And when the stock goes down, it's tough.
A lot less trolls in the comment. Yeah. A lot less trolls.
The good thing is I think a lot of people know that I'm pretty long with Palantir. You're pretty long with Tesla. So whether it's good or bad, it's like you're here and you're going to take the bullets. You're not going to do a victory lap at 140.
We're here to talk, man. I mean, I think we're just here to communicate our thoughts, and I think we're both very open about conversations. I don't really ban or block anybody. I let everybody to, voice their opinions. You're more than welcome to, have disagreements with me. I know there are people out there using my videos and creating hey, this guy is a freaking fraud or whatever videos. I'm like, fine. If that's your opinion, go with it. Let's have open discourse here. But my confidence comes from a place that I've studied for thousands of hours. And if I'm wrong, then I'm the one who looks like an idiot, and I'll accept it and I'll learn from it. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be it.
We'll see. Your confidence. We'll see. Speaking of getting blocked,
stay humble.
Gordon Johnson just had this massive tweet thread about Tesla, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, yo, are you bored? And then Kelly commented under it. And me and him both officially got the honor. Me and her both got the honor of being blocked.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Literally 20 minutes ago. It's like,
dude, congrats.
Are you blocked? I'm like, yeah, I'm blocked. Bro.
Welcome to the block party. I got blocked and I don't even know why.
Yeah.
Which bummed me out.
You're just too much Tesla bull stuff. He saw it in his feed. He's like, no.
I like his suspender game, dude. He's got some swag with his suspenders. He does. Yeah.
Farzad, this is awesome, man. Thank you. Good luck with everything with the pregnancy. I'm wishing you the best on that.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for joining the channel randomly on a Monday. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Keep it going. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Admit, too legit to quit. Let's give him his props, man. Love seeing what you do, and I can't wait to see you keep growing, brother. Appreciate
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Farzad. See you on the next one.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
All right, guys. That was awesome. Shout out to Farzad, stand-up guy. He's just one of the most nicest people in the world, dude. He's really one of the most nicest people in the world. One of the most humble people in the world, too, dude, because his rise has been meteoric when it comes to social media. And he's just stayed very humble and always been down to talk and be part of the community. So yeah, that's it for the market close today. We'll have Finance Junkies tonight at 9 p.m. A Palantir video will be coming out in 1 hour, talking about the shareholder questions that I thought were interesting that people asked on from the retail base for Palantir. And then we'll be back tomorrow, 8:45 a.m. live for the market open. Let's see what happens with Sofi. Where's the stock right now after hours? Let's do one last stock check after hours, and then we'll be done. Sofi, Tesla right here. So MicroStrategy down 6%, not that crazy. Bitcoin goes up, that'll be fine. Tesla 15% down slightly after hours. Nvidia up a little bit after hours. Palantir 22.85 after hours. Google 167. Robinhood 17.37, and then Sofi 7.04. It's down after hours. I think Sofi will get a bounce. As you can see, we hit 8.47 in the morning, came right down to $7. I think we'll get a bounce. Just will take some time, and hopefully that happens in the coming days. All right, that's it for me. Have a good one. Hope you guys enjoy your day. See you tonight on Finance Junkies, and see you tomorrow morning on the market open. Tomorrow's PayPal, 8 a.m. We'll be live, 8 a.m. Jesse, Couch Investor, a lot of people will talk PayPal. And then afternoon tomorrow, Amazon. So we'll keep going. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. See you guys tomorrow. Bye. Good night.